Hi everyone, how you doing today? My name's Kirsty, aka Beth Bookish, and this is my April reading wrap up. I'm actually filming this on the 3rd of April. I know, how can I do a wrap up on the 3rd of April, you ask? Because I have taken inspiration from none other than the amazing Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading. Please go check her out. And I've seen her do her wrap ups a little differently, where she does it as a sort of a vlog style. So she will do the review of the book as soon as she's read it, rather than wait until the end of the month and then do it all in one go. And I thought that looked quite interesting. So I was like, do you know what? I've already read 2 things this month, or three, 2 and a bit, 2.5, 2 and 2/3. So I was like, do you know what? It's a fun, let's give it a go. So I'll review my books as I go through the month and see what happens. So I haven't been on my Netflix for forever, but my Disney ran out and I can't afford to resubscribe right now. So I've gone back to Netflix for the first time in about 3 months, and I saw that Spy Family season 1 is on there. So excited little bean that I am, sat, watched it, realised that I really want to continue, because I got up to volume 6 and then didn't continue it, because at that time, I think this was 2 years ago, we were only on volume 6, whereas we're now on volume 10 in English and or 11 in English and then 13 in Japan. So I went back and I reread volume 6 because the anime overlaps very slightly. Like, the anime episode 25 covers the first part of volume 6, so I then wanted to finish it, so I went back, I finished that one, and then I've now, yesterday it was volume 6 and 7, today I've read volume 8. I love this series so much. All of them have been a minimum of 4 stars. And then the one that I read today, volume 8, that was 4.5. I do find that this manga, it is one that kind of does a lot of sort of snapshots and day in the life on top of the main plot, which I don't mind. I'm fine with that, but sometimes we'll be in the middle of a plot and then suddenly it'll cut away to something else. And I'm like, hang on, can we finish the main story first, please? So that bit can be a bit clunky, and I found that volume 6 was a little bit clunky. Volume 7, it kind of felt more like little one-shots and a little bit of a here's a snapshot of their lives and not really much else, which again, I had no issues with. It was fine, but I was just a bit like, oh, I wanted a little bit more. Although we did start to get hints that there may be something more to Anya, because she does a test, and I'm not going to say what happens, but it was just kind of like, where did that come from? And then volume 8, I like the end of volume 7 and the beginning of volume 8 so far have been my favourite part of the series, because we had a Yor-centric storyline where we got to see her in complete glory, because up until now we've had snippets, but this was a full sort of volume and a half where Lloyd and Anya were there, but they very much took the back seat. The focus was on Yor and like why she does what she does, why is she an assassin, what drives her. We got a little bit more of an understanding of her background and what's led her to where she is. And she started to also we start to realise from both Lloyd and Yor, there's kind of like a little bit of a thing there where they're both kind of having to remind themselves that this is a fake family, and I just loved it. It was kind of the very start of these little will they, won't they moments, and I'm just like, so yeah, I gave volume 6 4 stars, volume 7 4 stars, volume 8 4.5, very close to a 5, because there were some moments there that had me absolutely laughing like my butt off. So yeah, that's where we're at so far, and we're only on day 3. It is stupidly late at night, but I'm an idiot who forgot to update that I have done volume 10 of Spy Family, 5 stars. You're just... I was not expecting her to become my favourite character in this series, yet here we are. Her storyline in particular was so good. The emotion she was going through, the tension, the stakes, The fact that we had Twilight somehow managed to get in on it without realising. And then Anya, the way she navigated and helped both her parents without either of them realising. And then at the end, when they got to do like a family day together. And Yor fell asleep and Lloyd was carrying her. And then Anya fell asleep and Lloyd carried them both. 5 stars. It was the like wrap up of the Yor storyline, and it was just so good. Lloyd, Yor, and Anna, and I was Anya, and I was tearing up. Not even gonna lie, it was so adorable. But then it went to my least favourite character in the series, and I just cannot stand her. Agent Frost, Fiona Frost. I cannot stand her. And there's a few problematic characters throughout this story, like Becky and her weird obsession with Lloyd. I've seen people try to justify it online as, she's a 6-year-old. It's like, yeah, like 6-year-olds don't know what lust and that kind of stuff are, whereas she's been shown to watch really mature and inappropriate stuff. And I'm like, there is a whole bag of issues that need talking about there. So that kind of grosses me a little bit, because at least with Damien, his is genuinely like a 6-year-old, where it's embarrassed and finding someone cute but not really understanding, and it gets confusing, so he gets really annoyed. And that's how you would expect a 6-year-old to act, not the way Becky acts. So Becky is a whole like bag of daddy issues. Like I said, it then brought in Fiona Frost, who I absolutely hate, and that dragged the pace. And I'm not a fan of Frankie. Like, don't get me wrong, I know that there's like a recurring theme of little perverted men in Japanese manga. I know this is a thing. And in some cases, they become characters that I love, like Mineta from My Hero Academia. Creepy little shite bag, and if he was a real person, I would avoid the heck out of him, probably slap him with a restraining order. But there's something endearing about him. But Frankie just gives me the ick, and I'm yet to find something endearing. So him and Fiona having a couple of chapters together, just not for me. But then we got back to the school setting with Anya and her trying to go to plan B and build a relationship with Damien. She does make some progression, but it comes at a very big cost that was really funny and had me just sort of like, oh my god, that is exactly what would happen to me, and in the past has happened to me, where I've tried to do something nice and it's fallen back on me, but in a weird kind of way. And yeah, it was so cute and adorable, and I love the pair of them. Princess Gambit, I finished last night, 4.5 stars. Really loved it. I loved how things are going. One of the biggest issues, the biggest issue I have with this series, and is the reason why so far none of the books have been 5 stars, is the fact that it does involve child SA and molestation. And thankfully none of the main characters are children, and it's not like in it constantly, but it's there enough that it makes me uncomfortable, because just knowing that in this world there are child slaves that do that, and knowing that this is a normalized thing in this world. And there are a couple of comments, certainly from Laurent, where he's like, send a message to my uncle, you can kill all the children in the world, or that means he'll have no one left to bed. And I was like, ha! But because it was like well said, but also oof, because messed up. It was a really weird one. It might only be about a page of writing maximum across all 3 books, but the fact that it's in there at all as more than a passing comment does not sit well with me. There's also a character in this who it turned out was very heavily groomed as a child by the current regent, and his own father encouraged it to try and gain power, and again, didn't sit good with me. But everything else in this series, like the other 98-99% of the book, is so good. The dynamic between Damon and Laurent is just incredible. I love how things are going. I'm loving the war and the politics side of things and how we get in a deeper understanding of how warfare works. And yeah, I am really enjoying all the different things that are coming into it. I just wish that that 1% wasn't there. And I can't not include that when I'm reviewing, because I feel like that would be a massive misjustice, not only to all of you who might be considering picking that up, and that might be a seriously huge trigger, but also for, you know, myself. I can't give a series 5 stars when it does include that, and just, yeah. But 4.5 stars because everything else about this has been fantastic. I devoured it pretty quick. It took me 4 days because I had other things that I was working on, but once I sat down yesterday, I read like 150 pages and I'm already 96 pages into the final book, and I reckon this is going to be the next update that you see later today or tomorrow. We shall see. Not only have I read this in under a day, but what the I've never felt so conflicted before. Like, this is 5 stars. It's been a very this is the first book this year, and the first book probably in about a year, that has given me this intense a reaction. Why have I been sleeping on this series? I still really hate the fact that a lot of the plot centers around the uncle being a schmenophile, but we get so much more understanding of certain characters and certain things. And oh my god, like the last 3 chapters, I had to stop and remind myself that breathing is actually a thing that our body needs, because I was holding my breath so much I started to go dizzy at one point and was like, why am I going dizzy? Oh yeah, I've not breathed in like a minute and a half. I think Laurent is now one of my favourite characters. Like, Damon was fine, but I just kind of felt I wanted a little bit more from him. But Laurent, just where he's like cold and calculating, and he's a kid, he started like, you know, he's a character that was this shy young boy that had been turned into this cold, calculating. And like, even the ending of this, it was kind of, any other book I would have been like, that was really super rushed and I didn't feel like I got satisfaction from it. But C.S. Pacat has a way of writing that it didn't feel that way. It was very swift, but it was brutal, and it just didn't really, it wasn't trying to be flowery, it was just justice. And it was just swift and done. And holy fuck. I can't not honestly give this 5 stars, because the fact that I devoured it so quickly, I'm in love with the characters. I spent half the book either holding my breath, laughing out loud, or fanning myself, because, as you know, I'm not a smut reader, but when there are a few scenes in here, but what I love about this is in this series, every single kind of sex scene or explicit scene, it is so infused with emotion and rawness, and it's not just, oh, they smashed. You, like, these people are, their souls are on the line when they're, you know, and even things I don't normally like to read about in those situations were just so well done. The atmosphere in these books were brilliant. The humour, when it was there, was on point. All of the characters, I felt we got a really good understanding of everyone. And considering the visceral reaction I've had reading this, there is no way I can give this anything less than 5 stars. But I am still, as I said, I will not overlook the fact that there is a lot of uncomfortable topics in here. But I will say that at least she hasn't tried to sexualize them in any way. It's not like it's been put in there purely for shock factor. It actually has a very strong relevance to the plot that comes into it in the final book in ways I wasn't expecting. And some of the issues that I had with it in the second book were clarified in this one and made it so, even though I still don't like that the topic was in there, I understand it a lot more, and I feel like it was justified very well for being in there. When I finished it, I was tearing up because I was just like, what? From the emotions of the last bit of the book. So yeah. If you haven't read Prince is Right, Captive Prince series, and you're not easily triggered by very dark material, including things involving children, definitely read it, because 99.5% of this book was incredible. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Monstrous Volumes 1, 2 and 3 were on my TBR for this month. I picked up the first volume, I started reading it, and then very quickly remembered why I really didn't like it the first time round. And the only reason it got 3 stars was because of the artwork, the actual storyline. I hate it. And it's just so nonsensical and not explained. I then went online thinking, well, maybe if I look up what the rest of the series is about, maybe it will make more sense and I'll be more inclined to read it. No. So unfortunately, I am still, because I picked it up with the intention of reading it, I am still going to count it towards Volcanic Rock. I'm also so pissed off because it's the second month in a row I can't do buddy reads or group reads, because every time I do, I end up having a really shit time. This is like the 4th time that I've tried to do a group or buddy read and have either DNF'd or severely disliked the book. Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. I finished this last night. This had so many elements that I really enjoyed, and you know, unlike The Young Honeymooners, I didn't DNF it, I did finish it, I did have an overall good time. But what started off as a great time, the last sort of third of the book, not only did we have a sort of the big drama that pulled them apart only 40 pages before the end, which was not enough time for that to fully develop and unfold, I also very much questioned his reasoning for coming back. And I feel like if it had gone a different way, he would not have been back. And I just felt the ending felt quite sloppy, whereas we'd had a really good build-up and the relationship had been really good. I'm also not the biggest fan of the main female lead in this. I felt, other than her beauty that loads of people commented on, I didn't really see the appeal of her, and we didn't really get a lot of personality, but I will say it had some fantastic STEM rep. But if you want my full thoughts, please check out my compatibility video that I did where I was reading Chelsea Zhao's favourite books, and I go into way more detail, but I did give this one 3.5 stars. So we are slowly creeping up on the romances. I started off at DNS and 2 stars. Now we're in the 3s. Maybe at some point this year I'll get a 4 or a 5 star for romance. We don't know. Now that I found my own love, maybe I'm sick of reading other loves because my love is so amazing. Theirs all pale in comparison. Maybe that's what that is. Anyway, like I said, I'm not going to talk too much on this one because I do have the full thoughts and like a 5 to 10 minute rant about it, talk about it on the compatibility vlog. So if that is up, I'll post it. Otherwise, there will be a vlog coming soon and you'll see it there. But yeah, 3.5. Okay, I have finished Call Down the Hawk, which is book 1 in the Dreamers trilogy by Maggie Stiefvater and is the sequel to the Raven Boys. As soon as I finished the Raven Boys, I immediately requested this, and I've given it 4 stars, but it is only just a 4 star. There were a mix of things I did and didn't like about this, and it's annoying because some of the things I didn't like in the Raven Cycle were resolved, but then some of the things I loved about the Raven Cycle just weren't there in this one, and it was really frustrating because part of the problem that I had with the Raven Cycle was how ambiguous the plot is and how there wasn't really any structure to it, and it was so metaphysical and metaphorical that it was very easy to completely lose track what was going on, and the descriptions tended to be a bit overdone at times. So that was really annoying, and I also felt like the side characters weren't always given the right amount of description and screen time to really get into them, or they were introduced at weird times and not quite fleshed out and didn't feel like they really added to the plot and could have done without. But then the things that I loved were, like, I loved the atmosphere and the kind of creepy cynicism of everything, and I loved the characters' interactions and the dialogues, and I felt that the main cast of characters were really well done. However, in Call Down the Hawk, the plot was brilliant. It was really well structured. It was very easy to follow. I didn't feel lost at any point, and I loved how it had little nods back to the original series. But the camaraderie and the friendship and the relationships in the first book just weren't there. Because obviously Ronan is constantly butting heads with one of his brothers. The other brother is kind of in a world of his own and doesn't really... Like, I love Matthew, but I don't think he really adds much to the story, other than he just happens to be what he is. I did find, though, that I really loved Jordan and Hennessy and their storyline, and there was a moment in the book where I was genuinely like, oh my god, and no! And there was like another character that I started off really not liking, and then I did like them, and then something happened, and again I was like, crap. So, you know, it is definitely a darker story than the Raven Cycle, but not in the Raven Cycle it was more to do with paranormal ghosty stuff. In this one it's darker in that there are actual assassins and hired contract mercenary killers out to kill people, and they do kill people throughout the story. So it has that kind of darker being hunted feel to it, which I did like. But yeah, it just felt like the relationships were so weird and there wasn't really a dynamic there. Like, I miss the characters. So Blue and Gansey had mentions, and we had things like, you know, text messages from them, and it alluded that he was having phone calls with them, but we didn't ever get them actually physically on the page. And so I felt like there was a disconnect there. And there were moments where Adam came in as well, and I absolutely loved those, and I wish that there was more of it. And there's a new character that's been introduced, Farouk Lane. I'm at the end of the book and I still just... I can barely bring myself to care, and every time it switched POVs to her, like, I kept going, oh my god, and I wanted to speed it up or skip the chapters, because I just found that, you know, Jordan and Hennessy at the start, I wasn't bothered about. By the end, I absolutely loved them. Declan at the start, I was like, I'm not going to enjoy him. By the end, absolutely love him. Ronan, I started and finished loving. But then there's kind of like, they've got this character called Bride and another one called Farouk Lane and some other people. And those kind of characters, I'm just feeling at the minute a little bit like I'm not invested in their stories. But on the whole, I did actually have a really good time. And like I said, I just like the fact that I could follow along with the plot and not sit there going, what the hell? And it's left it off in a place where I'm really looking forward to continue it. I was also making some bullet point notes of my thoughts as I was going, because Olivia-Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe, she is a huge fan of this series as well. like the Raven cycle and then Call Down, and I know she's read Call Down the Hawk, so I was messaging her with like my bullet points of notes and she was having a laugh at that. But yeah, that's been a fun experience to like jot down notes as I go and my thoughts. But yeah, it was good. But there was just a couple of bits of the magic from the Raven cycle, and I don't mean literally the magic, I just mean like the character dynamics and 300 Fox Way, and I just missed all of those elements, and it just kind of, I don't know, there was something missing, and I'm hoping that the second book's going to start bringing it in a bit more, but we shall see. So that's the first book of the Call Down the Hawk, well, the Dreamers trilogy. So yeah, I'll speak to you in a bit. I finished this Poison Heart. I'm not going to talk too much about this one because it is going to feature in an upcoming vlog. When that vlog goes live, I do not know, but I will tell you the vlog title is Read It or Reap. More information on that to come. But I've just finished it. I haven't yet put it through Corpile, but I'm predicting it's between a 4 and a 4.5. Very brief summary. Girl who can control plants discovers that she is immune to poison. She's also then told about the last of her biological relatives, because she is adopted. The last of her biological relatives has died and she has inherited the house, so her and her mothers pack up, move to the house, and she starts to discover many secrets, and a lot of things get uncovered, which leads to some stuff that happens. This has a lot of Greek mythology in it, which I wasn't expecting, and as you know, I'm not normally a big mythology girl. Like, Greek mythology is not really one of my kind of interests. However, it was so well done. I loved all the plants and the magic system in this. Did not love the author's romance and the way she writes romance, but again, like I said, way more will be talked about with this in my vlog. But I definitely really had a good time. I now really want to try and get hold of the Fairy Loot copy of the sequel so that I've got matching copies. All of the characters were good, everything was great, and there were some things that happened that I wasn't expecting. And yeah, if you like plant magic, sort of bloodlines, witchy, sort of creepy goings on mixed in with a bit of Greek mythology, you want this book. That's just fucking dumb.
Hmm?
Oh, this character in this book's annoying me. She's all like, my ex destroyed me and he broke my heart. Ironically named Rob. Like, he's just called her, and her commentary is, he calls me every now and again, and he says, I saw you on TV giving thumbs up to some bull rider, and she's like, oh yeah, he does that every time it looks like I might be ready to move on, he swoops in. When I was younger, I used to think that was maybe because I could get him back. Now that I'm older, I realise it's his way of trying to control me. I'm fucking blocking, you stupid bin. If someone's damaged you that badly, why don't you just block and ignore them?
That would be too clever.
Ugh. Okay, I finished Flawless last night. There are some major things I hated about this book. Mostly Rhett. I do not see why people like him. Every time he did something nice, it felt like he wanted a reward or he wanted something out of it, and I just felt like we were told in the very first chapter that he isn't this playboy and he isn't this complete arsehole, and that he's actually a really sweet, tender, gentle, lovely guy underneath all of that. And yet, all we ever had from his perspective was further proof that he is not this tender, sweet, nice guy, because every tender, sweet thing he did was immediately followed up with something cheap and unnecessary. For example, Summer wears this really lovely dress at one point, and he's describing it and he's saying how lovely she looks and how pretty she is, and I was like, "Aw." And then he went, all I can picture is flipping the skirt over her as I bend her over and drive into her, kind of thing. And I was like, cool. And there was another moment where it was like really introspective and insightful and deep and could have really developed him as a character. And again, it got followed up with unnecessary. The brothers all get together and they do this thing. I'm not going to say what. And it was hilarious. But he then has this moment where he's reflecting on it, and like I can feel myself reverting back to old behaviours of knowing that I can't get people's attention by doing good things, so I turn to doing things I know I shouldn't do because negative attention is better than no attention. And I was like, oof, story of my life, that one hit. Only she then Summer turns up, and then he's like saying how even if it means that the only attention he gets from her is negative, and just watching the way she's pouting is enough to, you know, make me feel better about myself. Although I wish I could make those lips do that in a different kind of way. And I was like, come on, dude, you were just having a really good moment where I was starting to maybe think that there was more to you than sex, and then you do that. And he acted so selfishly. There were a few moments where he blatantly was disrespectful to her and completely acted on his own feelings and did not take her into account at all. And I feel like they shouldn't have ended up together. I don't know. I felt like the only reason they ended up together was because that's what the plot needed to do. I feel like in real life, the scene that he caused, that caused like the third act breakup, if that was my relationship, that would be it. Game over. You do not get a second chance after something like that. Because he disrespected her boundaries. He ignored her when she was begging him to stop, and he revealed a whole butt ton of things that he had no right telling anybody. And I'm just like, that is like 3 levels of absolute fuckery that I just, no. Like, don't get me wrong, Summer had a couple of moments that I didn't like, particularly at the end where she was sort of commenting about how even after everything they'd been through, the championship was still more important to him. And I did have a bit of a moment of, well, yeah, he's been doing this for 10 plus years. It is his entire income, life, career. Someone who he just met 8 weeks ago, no matter how much he's fallen in love with you, you are not going to come above his entire life that he has built. He needs to wrap everything up before he can focus on you. So I was a little bit like, okay. But for the most part, I did love Summer, and I thought she was pretty awesome. And she had way more kind of depth to her. And yes, she did have a lot of moments where she was focusing on like his hair and his looks, but it didn't really come at inappropriate times. It wasn't like she had this really deep, insightful moment where she was really in her emotions and reflecting on who she is as a person, and then straight away wanting that. It was a little bit later that we'd have like a scene break before it then went to that, or a sentence or two in between, and it wasn't back to back. So I really did like her, and there was one bit towards the end I did not like, and it's just a thing I have in life as well as in this, where they were talking about a heart attack, and it was like, oh, it was only a mild heart attack. I don't like when things like that are downplayed. Even a mild heart attack, which I don't believe there is such thing as a mild heart attack. A heart attack is a heart attack. It is a trauma to the body. Even the mildest of heart attacks can kill you. And yes, I do have it is a bit of a trigger for me with my mum having her first heart attack when I was 10 years old and she was 40, her then dying very unexpectedly, suddenly out of the blue at 52. But also working in care, when people were like, oh, it's a minor stroke, it is still a stroke. That is still a trauma to your brain, no matter how mild, and it's going to take years, if not months, if not years to recover from. And I'm currently recording a 24-hour vlog, and this is one of the books in it, and I did make a comment about how I can guarantee that the person who's had this heart attack, they're going to walk into the hospital room and they're going to be like sat up and making jokes and look absolutely fine and be up on their feet within a couple of days. And it's like, I've seen enough people who have had heart attacks, both minor and catastrophic, to know that ain't happening. You will be on all of the oxygen, you will be dosed up to your eyeballs, you will struggle to breathe, you will look ashen and grey. And it annoys me on TV shows as well, like 911 does it, where someone will have a life-changing injury and within 3 months they're back at work like nothing happened. And it's like, I doubt you're going to just continue on as normal and have nothing wrong with you whatsoever. You know, that just little things like that kind of annoy me, because as someone with chronic health as well, And as someone with family members who I've seen have these kind of incidents, and I've seen and working in care, seeing the long-term impacts of these kind of things, it really annoys me when authors or script writers or whatever, or even in real life when people are like, oh, they'll be back up off their feet in no time, and it's like nothing ever happened. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. So yeah, I didn't like that particular plot point. I kind of felt like that was poorly handled. However, things I really loved the brothers dynamic. I loved like the bro friendship kind of thing. Harvey, who is Rhett's dad, was incredible. There were some really funny moments, like the tractor moment, that was brilliant. The start of the book with the serving drinks made from milk to Rhett just to wind him up. When it was like those kind of light-hearted bantery moments, and like Summer and her relationship with her best friend, I loved all of those. A few people have commented about Summer and her dad's relationship being a bit borderline weird, and I'm like, the conversations they were having is no more different to the sort of conversations I used to have with my mum. Maybe that's because me and my mum did have an unhealthy kind of relationship where she saw me more as her best friend, and used to talk to me like, even at sort of 7, 8 years old, would talk to me like I was an adult. And I probably got told things that I should not have been told, because she kind of forgot to put that parental boundary in. And I feel like Kip and Summer have that same dynamic where he was trying to make up for a lot of things with her, and therefore he treated her more as his buddy. As someone who had a not conventional relationship with her own mother, I'm kind of like, I saw a lot of similarities and comparisons. I don't know, I felt like it was fine. I did have mixed feelings about this one, and there were quite a lot of things that I didn't like. Like I said, I didn't like Rhett at all. I hated the smut. It wasn't for me. When you're going to include smut and spice in books, I want there to be an emotional connection. I want it to be a big, deep moment. Whereas these two, it just kind of was just pure porn. And some of the things that it included with the spice were things that make me go, yeah, I am far too asexual for that. And also with my autism, like, because there was a bit of food play, and I was genuinely starting to get a bit of bile come up, because I was like, oh, at the imagery of that. And, I'm not a fan of dirty talk. I'm just like, some things are fine, but what they were saying and the things they were saying, I was just like, oh my god, this is absolutely. If someone ever said that to me during sex, I'd be like, I'm sorry, what? And I'd probably just laugh in their face or tell them to fuck off. Yeah, so it had a lot of my personal major icks in there. It then did have one moment that I thought was fantastically written, but I just kind of, I prefer when spice is included, I just prefer it to feel tasteful. And even if it's like fully explicit, if it's done well, it can be very tasteful and very emotional, and it can feel like an important part of the plot. This just felt like, oh, fan service, let's throw in some sex. So yeah, it wasn't really my favourite. But saying all that, and I feel like I've just really only talked about bad things, but do you think I'm going to continue the series? Yes I am, because I do own the second book, but if I don't enjoy Cade's book, then I will stop the series there. I'm optimistic that that's going to be my favourite in the series. So yeah, very, very low 3 stars for this one, but a 3 stars nonetheless. And on to the next, which will probably be one of the last books for the month. I just wanted to say that I read and finished the first book in mine, but I can't really give a review because I read it and have talked about it for an upcoming vlog that won't be out until sort of because it's one of Ren's favourites, and I'm currently reading a bunch of Ren's favourites for various vlogs that I've got coming up. So I will say a good time was had. So yeah, that's all I can really say, but I did finish it, and I'm very, very much looking forward to the rest of the series. So, sneak peek, especially for Ren, that, you chose good for me for that. I will say I preferred the female lead to the male. The male's a bit boring to me at the minute, but the female lead, she is just so cool and complex.
and I love her so much. So that is the final book, I think. I don't think I'm going to have any more time to do any reading. We shall see, but I doubt it, considering I have like not many hours left of the month and I'm probably going to be asleep very soon. But yeah.
It is May the 1st. Nothing else got finished, which means this is the final part of the vlog, and it's literally just me here to say thank you so much for watching. Please do let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this sort of vlog style where I was going, like, reviewing the books as I go, or would you prefer if I stuck with just one video one clip at the end of each month where I just go through all the books in one go? Let me know in the comments as well, what books did you get up to in April and what was sort of like your favourite book or books. In the meantime, I really hope you're good. I hope you're staying safe. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content from me. Also, please do check out my Patreon that launched a few weeks back. We now have our first book pick for our book club. It's Mina and the Undead. Feel free to come join us, see what's going on over there. And yeah, until next time, I'm going to keep being weird. I hope you're good. I hope you're staying safe. And until next time.